Anna was part of the bunker's management team. During a meeting, they were discussing whether to accept help seekers from outside. In the conference room, the administrator was staring at surveillance monitors when suddenly all the screens went haywire. The next second, the entire bunker shook violently. Alarm sirens blared throughout the facility. The crowd erupted into chaos. John grabbed his wife and son, hastily threw together a supply pack, and sprinted toward the exit. But the main gate was already blocked by the panicked mob. Left with no choice, they squeezed through narrow gaps, struggling to make their way forward. They barely made it through the blast door, while those who couldn't escape in time were ultimately buried under the collapsing rubble. Bursting out of the bunker, they found crowds of refugees everywhere, all running toward the beach. The first boat was already packed to capacity. Even worse, people were still climbing onto it. The vessel began tilting violently and soon capsized. John instantly realized something was wrong. He kept running with his wife and child toward the boats ahead and barely managed to squeeze into a cabin. The announcement came to close the hatch. They forced the door shut, leaving more than half the people still outside, unable to board. Shortly after the small boat pulled away, a massive dark wall surged up from the ocean. The captain tried to change course to avoid this catastrophe, but in the blink of an eye, the enormous wave completely engulfed the vessel. John held his son tight, curled up in a corner. After a violent bout of turbulence, the boat finally began to stabilize and continued sailing toward an unknown destination. Days passed quickly. The food on board had run out. Everyone lay motionless in the cabin. Just then, the boat suddenly struck something and came to a stop. John pushed open the door and looked out. Before him stood nothing but submerged buildings. The tops of skyscrapers poked above the water's surface. From these structures, it was clear this was Liverpool. Everyone snapped awake instantly. The boat soon reached a patch of dry land nearby. They walked along the streets, and suddenly several figures appeared ahead. John immediately led his family to follow them. Not far off stood a barrier wall with armed soldiers inside. An officer stood atop the wall and shouted loudly that only senior officials with clearance passes could enter. Anna quickly pulled out her badge and held it up. The officer glanced at it and nodded. Just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief, the distant sky suddenly changed color. A massive radiation storm was rapidly sweeping toward them.